You ever have one of those moments that just sucker punch you out of nowhere? Let me put it this way. My farm was 19 kilometers from any HOA. 19. I made absolutely sure of it, right down to the meter, spent my life savings on a patch of dirt so far out you'd have to pack lunch just to get harassed by a neighbor. No homeowners association, no busybodies in fuchsia blazers measuring my grass. Freedom, right? That was the plan. So picture this. I'm standing there on moving day, exhausted, but grinning ear to ear, thinking this is the start of something real, something mine. And then boom, there it is in my mailbox. A letter that looked official enough to scare the paint off a squad car. Final eviction notice. 72 hours to vacate, signed by Pinewood Estates HOA. An HOA that, as far as I knew, had about as much authority out here as a Girl Scout troop trying to repo my tractor. My hands shook. Rage, disbelief, you name it. For land you got no right to control. It felt like someone dropped a bucket of ice water on my dreams. But man, I didn't know that was just the starter's pistol for the weirdest, wildest fight of my life. A fight with people who'd weaponize every trick in the book just to steal a guy's little patch of paradise. It all started so differently. That first morning, you could have bottled the air golden light, rolling over 35 acres oak trees, old enough to remember the Civil War, a red barn slouched to the east like it was napping after a good meal. Even the wild grass seemed happy to see me swaying in the breeze. I'd blown up my whole life for this, a teaching career, modest pension, every dime of savings. 95 grand just gone so I could breathe air that tasted like freedom and wood smoke instead of middle management and copy toner. I walked my land boots, caked with red clay, already planning what I'd plant, what I'd build. Chickens, a little market garden, maybe some kind of learning program for city kids lost in screens. 8 blackberries right off the bush juice running down my hands, just happy. And then this letter. Out of nowhere. Heavy paper watermark, no return address. Pinewood Community Management. Final eviction notice. 72 hours to vacate. Said I was in violation of some agricultural zone covenant one I'd never heard of. Legal action it threatened if I didn't leave voluntarily. Let me tell you, my teacher brain kicked in when things don't add up. You call around, check the facts. First stop was the county clerk. She laughed, said she'd worked there 15 years, never heard of that zoning code. Somebody's pulling your leg, she said. Part relief, part fresh anger. But when I called Mrs. Clark, the old neighbor who'd sold out last year, she just went quiet. Then she dropped a bomb. They tried that with me too. It's that development company Pinewood Estates. They want your land for their new highway access. They don't care what they have to do. Now that's a gut punch, right? I mean, I owned my land. Title was clean. Zoning was clear. But apparently if someone wants your land bad enough, they'll invent authority out of thin air and back it up with fake legal threats. My realtor confirmed it was a scare tactic, but the letter just sat on my counter staring at me like a rattlesnake. I started checking out every unfamiliar vehicle on my road. That afternoon, there was a white sedan parked half a mile off, watching, I swear. Sun goes down and now I'm on edge. Suddenly, gravel crunches out front. A black SUV rolls up official stickers, but the plates are off, the badges are too shiny, the whole vibe is wrong. 2 guys get out, one with a clipboard, one with a badge that would have fooled a tourist. The deputy starts barking orders, shoves a court folder in my hand, eviction notice from the Superior Court he claims signed by Judge Patterson. Tells me if I don't vacate, I'll be arrested for contempt. But here's the thing I've taught teenagers for years. I know a performance when I see one. Their paperwork had real stamps and fake urgency, but the court orders were missing all the right seals, and their radio chatter sounded like a couple kids playing walkie-talkie. When they tried to inventory my kitchen boxes, I finally snapped. I called 911, phone shaking in my hand. The real sheriff showed up, Deputy Torres' boots, scuffed badge, worn the look of someone who's actually done the job. He asked the fake deputies for their badge numbers, looked over their SUV. Turns out their plates belonged to Pine Valley Development LLC, not any law enforcement agency. He saw right through them, and just like that, the 2 goons made a break for their SUV, tripping over themselves, leaving behind a clipboard full of property addresses. acquisition timelines, even financial projections. Torres told me this wasn't a one-off. You're the third target this year. They harass folks until they give up and sell cheap. He gave me his card. Document everything he said. Install cameras if you can. As the sun set, I realized I was in the middle of a war I never signed up for. Sure enough, the next day was like living in a Kafka novel. Calls from the county health department, 47 violations each, with a $500 fine. No one had inspected my property. Every complaint traced back to Helen Ashworth Pinewood's HOA president, who showed up in person with her fancy lawyer, offering me voluntary HOA membership that sounded about as voluntary as a mafia protection racket. I declined as politely as I could. Her voice dropped cold. We've resolved 12 similar situations. Cooperation is easier than resistance. Then it was like every agency in the county got the memo. Septic violations, fire code, unlicensed agricultural activity, thousands in fines stacking up by the hour. Inspectors demanded third-party vendors, her vendors, of course, for repairs. The pattern was clear. Crush me with bureaucracy, bleed me dry, force me to sell. I got lucky. A property rights attorney found evidence the inspector signing off on these complaints owned stock in Pine Valley Development. We filed a harassment lawsuit, attached a restraining order. Court day came. Helen marched in with a battalion of lawyers, tried to play the concerned community leader. But our evidence was solid. The judge slammed her with a restraining order, told her to back off. And right there in the courthouse, as she breezed past me, she smirked. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. He has no idea what's coming. Chills. The very next day, I get an emergency call, fast-track zoning meeting, my farmland about to be reclassified as industrial for economic development. The room was packed with supporters who turned out to be paid actor scripts in hand. 5-2 vote, and my dream farm was about to become an industrial park. But a few of those supporters confessed outside they'd been paid $50 each to read their statements. I recorded it all, but fighting City Hall was like shadow boxing. Helen had money power and zero shame. I tried confronting her at the HOA building, got physically escorted out, trespassed from a place I never wanted to set foot in. But in the commotion, I overheard her activate environmental protocol tomorrow. Containers are already planted. My stomach dropped. I tore through my property with a flashlight. Sure enough, found 3 chemical containers stashed behind old equipment. Labels stripped, placed just so. I photographed everything, called my attorney, and waited for the storm. Next morning, the EPA arrived, warrant in hand, sheriff in tow. They found the chemicals, waived forged invoices, and anonymous witness statements. But I had my own evidence, camera footage of trespassers' bank records showing I was out of state when the chemicals supposedly arrived, security logs, and expert testimony. The EPA investigator Morrison started to put the pieces together. Nothing matched up. He called it for what it was, a frame job, a criminal conspiracy to steal land and ruin reputations. The case ballooned into a federal investigation. And that's when the real cavalry arrived. Special Agent Tracy Collins from the FBI called. Turns out Helen's little land grab was a multi-county operation. 23 families, millions in stolen property, fake legal pressure, coordinated bribery. My case, with all my obsessive teacher's documentation, was the missing link. The plan was risky. I wore a wire to a meeting with Helen, let her brag about handling the Miller Dairy, the Rodriguez Ranch, the whole systematic racket. She laid out her methods, even described using environmental frame-ups and bribing county inspectors. Her lawyer turned pale as she went on and on, oblivious that every word was going on the record. But Helen caught wind of the investigation, tried to shred documents and flee. The FBI swooped in at the airport, caught her with briefcases of cash, computers, the whole 9 yards. Her lieutenants, the inspectors, the bribed planners, all rounded up. It was glorious watching her get cuffed, trying to buy her way out with donations to community safety programs. Months later, at the federal courthouse, the gallery was packed, 23 families, some meeting for the first time. Helen got 12 years for conspiracy, fraud, money laundering. Her mansion was sold at auction. The Rodriguez family bought it and turned it into a community center. My farm, protected by federal conservation easements, 850 grand in restitution, and my dream still intact, still. But here's the thing, this story wasn't just about beating Helen. It was about learning the hard, bitter truth that power and greed will weaponize anything, even the law, to take what's yours. But also that stubbornness, community, and relentless documentation can beat even the most sophisticated criminal enterprise. My farm grew into a haven, not just for me, but for every family who needed proof that you can win. Kids laughed by the pond, chickens scratched in the sun, and weekend programs brought city folks back to the soil. The teacher in me finally found peace. Helen faded into memory working in the prison library, while the rest of us rebuilt. I got letters from Montana and Nebraska folks fighting off land grabs with the very strategies we built here. My wall filled up with pins, each one a family that kept their home. So yeah, the lesson's simple. You never know how strong you are till someone tries to take everything. Justice isn't automatic. You have to drag it out, kicking and screaming into the light. But if you stand your ground, document everything, and never let the bullies set the rules, sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win. Now I gotta ask you, where do you stand on justice and power? Would you fight or cut your losses and run? Ever tangled with a bully who thought they owned the world? Drop your story, share your thoughts, and tell me. Does the little guy ever stand a chance when the game's rigged? Hit subscribe if you want more tales where the truth is stranger and way more satisfying than fiction. And remember, sometimes the hardest fights are the ones worth winning.